I'm Heather Miller-Lardon, and I'm a historical double bass player. In this video, I'm going to be looking at the 77 Baroque Bass Lines number 5 by Johann Christian Schickhardt. It's a Gigue, and so that's in 6/8 time. It's in C major. We have a metronome marking here added of dotted quarter equals 116, which is a great tempo for a Gigue. I might take it a little bit slower just for demonstration purposes because it's pretty zippy. But I do like it. It's quite light. So let's take a look at it. I already said that it's light-hearted, playful. Skipping is the affect that I'm thinking about here just because of the gestures that we have. There are a lot of either quarter note and eighth note patterns or sometimes dotted rhythms. And Lucas Drew puts in hooked bowings for these. This is typical 20th century, 21st century bowing. It is not really typical 18th century bowing. So I'm going to play most of those separate and then correct as needed. There isn't really a right or a wrong way to do it. I think it's just what feels good to you. But I do think that if you're going to use a bow or even imagine that you have a Baroque bow, letting that gesture, dum, ba, bum, bum, you can create that feeling by being very compact with the bow and very light on the second part. So it's like this. You don't need a whole lot of bow. And the way I just played was pretty even. I'm not going to do that in this excerpt. I'm going to play each bar a little more or a little less depending on where I think it's going. You start to learn to figure out where those places are, and you adapt. So there are also dots. I don't know if the dots are from Schickhardt or from Lucas Drew. On a number of pickups, for example, in bar 6, there's one. I think that's a great idea. I think you want the pickups to be light, so whether or not they're original, I would keep those in. Let me play this first section a little slowly so you can kind of hear where those strong and weak bars are. And here we go. Oh, the mezzo forte at the beginning, probably not Schickhardt, but it's a great place to start. I put a little articulation there. I disagree with that piano and the pickup to 5 because it's just leading so much to that downbeat. I do like this crescendo. Again, probably not Schickhardt, but I think it makes sense. And then it leads us to this cadence, which we'll put down lightly. Moving on to the B section, the character changes a little bit. I would play this a little more smoothly. I'll play a little bit here, and then still following where the bars are leading you. Light there, then chromaticism on the D sharp. Little emphasis. Crescendo. I would agree with that crescendo there. Because that forte, again, I don't know where it comes from, but it kind of works. Now, I would decrescendo into the piano in the middle of 18. Yes, it's 18. It kind of sets up this next sequence. Now there's another piano at the end of 24, and I completely disagree with that because I think that we want to come down through 25. So I'm going to play again from 21, 22. Now we come down after the cadence, and here's another sequence. I'll get louder. And you heard how I articulated those phrases. Ta-da-dum, pa-da-dum, ba-da-dum, ba-da-dum. It just organizes the phrase a little bit that way. All right, and then in the pickup to 30, that's where I would put the piano. There's a piano in the middle of 30 here, and I think that's a new phrase, and it repeats exactly the same a step lower. And I could get lower there. Now here's a fun thing to do. I often talk about how 18th century players reduce their bass parts at sight. Now, I wouldn't necessarily do that in a place like this because this is an etude and we're working on the actual bass line, so there's some technical things to do. But in 34, this is a classic place where you could do that. So instead of playing, you could reduce it to this. It gives it a really nice swing if somebody else was playing those notes an octave higher. But since it's just me, I'm going to play all of the notes and try to get that swing by imagining that I'm reducing that part. Maybe I'll get it better the next time. Then we have a little tag and a repeat. So again, the dynamics here, they seem to be imposed on the piece. There's a lot of ways you can do it. The most important thing is that you do something and build and come back and build and come back. And towards the end, I think we want to be kind of strong. So now that we have gone through the entire piece, I'm going to play it all the way through. As I often say, I'm going through a very different style. I'm going for a very different style than I would if I was playing a solo line or an etude. Even though I don't have any other musicians to respond to, I'm going to assume that somebody else is playing in the 8-foot octave or cello range. And I'll focus on shaping a transparent and supportive bass line. That means I'm going to have to create significant and audible contrast. So I will ghost some notes and they might not be as audible as others. That's intentional.